So, mask off in the car. This is the first one I'm doing in the app, which is new. And I've decided to plug in the microphone as opposed to last time. So this is one that I tried to do, but I lost the audio for. So this is called a repeat. And once again, still figuring out the edges of the car because I haven't been driving much. I've been doing, like everyone else, just trying to stay home. So we keep waiting for this tail to come with COVID, but at the moment it sort of looks like a fish tail in that it's sort of creeping back up again. But today 15, but it doesn't look like it's actually going anywhere in terms of direction. I wouldn't say from a data point of view it looks like a tail, but it looks like a solid, steady, stable state. So what does that mean for getting out of level 3? I think everyone's feeling a bit cautious, but we haven't been using the term cautiously optimistic at this stage. Like we were when we were in 4, we've just been using the word cautious. So I just got to get through the COVID swabby people because I don't want to upset them. Looks like absolutely no one getting swabbed here, which is the usual story, but you have to set it up. So what's been happening? Well, so more and more bits of information, tidbits coming out on the Wanaka couple, and their alibi was they had to feed the horses. Now, I think apparently they engaged a PR team or something, or someone suggested they should. I think this is just too funny. In terms of people not being on this couple's side or not realizing what this couple is about or just not connecting with them, when you tell them the alibi is, oh yeah, we've got to go feed our horses because we grew up with horses. And I don't know anything about horses. That sounds actually pretty reasonable. Don't you have to feed them? I think horses they're pretty stupid on the whole. I think they need a lot of care and attention, otherwise they don't work. So their alibi, which has come to attention, is they had to feed the horses, which actually does seem reasonable. I don't know who's feeding the horses now, but obviously in a small town in Wanaka, you could see the Google searches go up, and everybody probably knew who this family was anyway. So it just keeps giving this story, and I think especially when our lockdown numbers are no good, then we've got this to focus on, which is just the way things go with us. Now, vaccination numbers, it is just completely open season. Anyone can get a vaccine at any point, anyhow. You just got to do it. They're giving away food vouchers. They're giving away, you can get it done on the bus. There's other incentives. They're looking at a range of prizes, smartphones, so it's completely open season. Apparently we're copying the Australian jab of the bus, but we're already past America's average vaccination rate, which is pretty demoralizing, I think, for America, that their rate is so low and they ain't going to get it higher. So good to see that Biden just today, he's given away their vaccines, 500 million doses, and he's giving them to people who actually want them, which is good because it's pretty clear some people would rather have a pretty decent chance of dying or becoming seriously unwell rather than have someone tell them what to do. And fair enough, it's become a political thing there like it always is. So our numbers aren't down, so that's sucky. That seems like the judge's faux pas of her high trust model of allowing a known criminal to go home with other criminals to wherever they want has been apologized for. I'm pretty sure it will be happening again to a situation near us. But what can you do? And other leaks, this is leaks actually from Winston Peters, who people might remember was our Prime Minister, acting Prime Minister for some time, but he was certainly been the kingmaker in the last government and was the leader of the deputy leader of the coalition. So he's come out firing about this terrorist guy, New Zealand's latest terrorist, who stabbed 6 people and injured 7 in a Countdown store. And so these things are complicated, but he pointed out this guy tried to leave New Zealand twice, and he was arrested only to be released back into New Zealand community. and more details are filtering through. Like, I don't know if our approach of rehabilitation or some sort of management of these situations ever works. It doesn't seem like it does, and 6 people were seriously injured and probably majorly traumatized, as a wider group of people. So the plan is to arrest these people, put them back in prison, but then you can't keep them in prison, so then you have to let them go again, and then you can't do anything until they commit a crime. So you have to watch them, then they have to stab someone, then you have to intervene as quick as you can. It does seem a bit stupid. And I think the PM fronted it. If she really wanted to put on the front foot that this isn't a religious act, when it clearly was a religious act. I mean, he was shouting God's name, Allah, Allah, Allah. So we might not view it as a religious act, but I think he would, and probably if he's got any sympathizers, they would use religious reasons as their reasons for doing this. So we're stuck. We can't let these people go and kill themselves in a country where they want to do it. We can't send them back to their own country. We have to keep them in our country, and we can't keep them in prison. So it seems like this was inevitable. The people who got stabbed, I would be ready to stab someone if I got stabbed by this nut job. Anyway, apparently they're going to move, they're going to take all the knives out of Countdown. I didn't realize what knives you could get, but he apparently picked up the biggest knife he could get and just went for it. And he has declined throughout his time with corrections and blah blah blah. He had declined psychological assessment. Declined it. It's just crazy. So it literally is crazy. So he's declined it, and we have to accept that. And so the damage goes on and on. And similarly with the judge who let the person leave Auckland, they don't seem to be able to ask them, where are you going? Where are you being bailed out to? So they gave 2 addresses, but they can't say, but they can GPS them. None of this really makes sense to me. But what does make sense is you can't really trust people. High trust models seem to be biting us in the backside all the time. No, there's been good uptake about the app, and occasionally there's a new burst of we should be scanning. At the moment it's all about vaccination, and fair enough, because we actually have vaccines. Before that we had these bulimic episodes of scanning. No one has ever mentioned the Bluetooth function, and this was of main interest to me because this was Apple and Google came together, they were friends, and everybody was immediately suspicious, but they gifted this Bluetooth technology to the world and worked hard and worked together on that to create that. And so we have the Bluetooth functionality in our app, and it has not been useful in one single contact case. So I wonder if they're going to scrap it. They're certainly not talking about it. I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't working. But the initial settings were that for 15 minutes within 2 meters it would trigger, but with Delta it's any contact. So are they going to change that? Now I know in the UK it is working, but because Delta and other variants are so widespread, people turn it off because they call it ping overload, because they get so many pings all the time. I mean, it would probably work here because you would be pretty surprised, and I think you'd be pretty motivated to get a test if you had a ping here, because our case numbers, although they're not going away, they're pretty low. And so, yeah, I don't know. They should probably think about telling us to remove what's happening with Bluetooth. I think it's a neat thing to have on, and the Bluetooth app here doesn't seem to get in the way. The countries that said, yeah, Bluetooth app is really good, they seem to have the early versions of that where it just completely dominated the real estate on the screen and started draining your battery life. So it doesn't seem to do that here, but it doesn't work either, so I don't know what that means. Yep, and that's about it. There's another animation of how the MIQ system works. It sounds incredibly complicated, but the demand is high, which I think is a good thing in some ways, that people want to come back to New Zealand. And I think these are one-way moves, which is good to know as well, because I think the main risk for us is people toing and froing. So a high barrier thing is, I think the fact that the demand is still there makes us realize that these people want to come back. They're not coming back and forth and back and forth. This is a one-way thing, which I think is something that should be supported, and we will see. I don't know how people get in. It seems to be more of a lottery, which I guess is fair, but I think they're looking into if you vaccinate people, should they be higher in the pecking order because they have less chance? I mean, certainly, I think we'll probably end up in a situation, if you come from a low-risk place with double vaccination, do you actually even need an MIQ spot? And are we going to tolerate that? I think it seems like you've got a highly motivated group who are coming back to New Zealand, which is pretty good. A lot of people are posting our success with the vaccine using vaccine graphs which show the last week. Yeah, they do look really flattering because we start from behind. But I think the more key one is that we should just really run our own race and aim for 90%. So we've got to hide those graphs where we seem to be leading the world in the last week vaccination, because honestly, some countries which have done their they've run through their vaccination program, their rates are still really low, and they won't be able to really stamp it out at all. States are still having 2,000 people die a day. It's crazy. It's like a 9/11 every day, and every day repeating. So that's not going to be tolerable here. Sydney's still struggling, although their numbers are coming down with their tight restrictions. But we have about half the number of ICU beds as Sydney. So we've got a very frail system and vulnerable populations, and we need to do what's right for us, and high vaccination seems to be the key to it. And so otherwise, I think people are preparing for a long haul level 3. There doesn't seem to be light at the end of the tunnel. We aren't racking up the zeros. We just got to seem to contain this thing in Auckland. So let's see how we do, and keep vaccinating.